Welcome to the Militia Gaming Community. I'm Trigger Militia, and today we're running the very first $100,000 build challenge in Need for Speed Heat. Let's go! Alright, first of all, thank you so much for coming to this video. I know there's lots of content on YouTube that you could be watching, so I really appreciate you taking the time to check out mine. This is the first of hopefully many $100,000 build challenges that we're going to throw. We're actually going to try to include some of you viewers in future episodes of this show, so if you stay till the end, you'll get some instructions on how you can join in on something like this in the future. Once again, thank you very much for your patience. This is a long video. It's a little bit of a different format than what you're used to seeing from us. It's usually quick and straight to the point and full of facts, but this is much more in the entertainment realm. So any feedback that you have is much appreciated. Light up those comments with what you're thinking and feeling about this episode. All right, grab some popcorn and a Barks and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the very first $100,000 build challenge. I'm your host, John Michael Bryan, and you're probably wondering what a $100,000 build challenge is, so here's how it goes. Each contender is tasked with buying and building a car with a budget of $100,000. Cosmetics do not count towards the budget, so they are free to customize the wheels off, although that would definitely slow them down. Once the builds are complete, the contenders will go head-to-head in these 5 events without making any adjustments to the cars. The winner of the most events will be crowned the 100K champion. Today's contenders are Trigger Militia and Phteven Militia. Same last name, that's cool. Let's take a quick look at Trigger's build. He decided to go with the 2016 BMW M4 GTS. The car represents a very large portion of his $100,000 budget at $95,500. This will leave him almost nothing to upgrade the car with. He might be able to get a tire or two, but definitely not 4. And he's decided to go with the sport level raised suspension, which will cost him only $2,500, putting his total build at $98,000. Phteven, on the other hand, has decided to go with the classic 1976 Volkswagen Golf GTI, which is only $27,000, which means he'll definitely have enough money to make some changes back at the garage, and has he ever. He's decided to swap the entire engine and drop a 1.3-liter Wankel for $66,000, and then he added the Pro Track tires for $5,000, bringing his total cost to the exact same as Trigger's $98,000, same last name, same budget. Even though these cars are both German, they couldn't be more different. It's the old versus the new, the pistons versus the rotary, the front-wheel drive versus the rear-wheel drive. But now that both builds are complete, let's get to the first event. The track race. Today's race is Bannister, a circuit race in downtown Palm City. It's tight and full of turns with one water jump about 75% of the way through the lap. It definitely favors a car with great handling and acceleration. The drivers are at the line, so let's go ahead and tune in and see what they're saying as we start this first event.
You look like you're going to shovel snow with that front end.
It's aerodynamics, bro. You don't understand.
What are you, clearing driveways in your spare time?
No.
And they are off, and Trigger nosses right off the line, taking that early lead. Phteven Militia is really going to have to play catch-up now. Speaking of ketchup, my iguanas really love ketchup, and I can't wait to get home and share some ketchup, macaroni, and cheese with them. Maybe I should focus on the racing. All right, here we go. Trigger seems to be holding off Phteven Militia, but it is a close one. Way closer than anyone would have predicted. I think we're in for an amazing set of races today, guys. I'm excited about this one. They've got a couple more turns and then into that one jump across the water. I wonder how this first lap is going to end up. And, oh, we get a little bit of interruption on Phteven Militia's screen. I don't know if they're going to keep that in or not, but maybe so. This is a pretty low-budget production. And here we go. All right, Phteven Militia hits this next turn perfectly, and he hits the NOS. He's about to pass him. He passes him on the first lap. Check that out. I bet you Trigger's pissed about that one. And it looks like he is because he just nosed on that straightaway trying to catch up to Phteven. And here we go, slides into that next turn. Phteven hits the dirt and goes through the fence, allowing Trigger to come in and take the lead. Oh, a little bit of dirty racing there. Looks like he might have bumped him. Well, they're going to have to go to the replay to find out what happened. And this is only lap 2, so they're about 50% of the way through the race right now. Well, let's check in with Phteven. It looks like he's doing okay, but he needs to do better on these turns if he wants to catch up to Trigger and finish the race in first. It looks like Trigger's able to slide through these turns, while the front-wheel drive of Phteven Militia is allowing him to get through on the inside and not have to slide at all. Here we go, lap 2. We're about to come to the finish line of lap 2, and Trigger gets bumped by Phteven. Oh, wait, did he? I don't know. The game desynced, and it looked like he did on his screen, but it didn't on Phteven Militia's screen, so I don't know what happened there, but it looks like Phteven Militia took a big lead because of it, and this might affect the end of the race. Here we go. This is now becoming a story of whether or not Trigger can actually catch up, and I don't think he's going to. Phteven Militia's got quite a big lead on him. It's about 150 yards, and if you're asking yourself how long is a yard, even us Americans don't even know. Is it 3 feet? No. Is it 1 meter? No, but it's close, so we're going to say meters, 150 meters ahead, and Phteven Militia is driving on cruise control while Trigger tries his best to get ahead, and it looks like he's driving much better on this third lap than he was, but he will need a miracle. It looks like Phteven Militia is coming up to the final turn. He's got to make a giant mistake if Trigger wants to catch him, and he doesn't, so he nosses to the finish line, and Phteven Militia takes the very first event of this $100,000 build challenge. Oh man, Trigger Militia's got to be upset. Okay, so with one win on the board and some growing confidence, Phteven is ready to take his 1976 VW snowplow over to the next event, the dirt race. Today's off-road sprint, Santiago, is brought to you by Chips and Salsa. That's right, it's a delicious way to spend an afternoon, but don't add guacamole because that's $1.90 extra. Avocados are greedy SOBs. Let's tune into the driver's pre-race chatter as this race is about to kick off.
Well, I think I have the advantage because there's another GTI in front of me, so
Oh, Jesus.
I don't see any BMWs.
It's true. There is a Mercedes, though. Oh, no, I'm just spinning.
Oh,
Can't go anywhere.
Front-wheel drive.
And as the race starts, both of the drivers are having trouble with traction. What a surprise, considering neither one of them decided to put off-road parts on their car, knowing that they had to do an off-road race. And both are in 7th and 8th. They're not going to win, even against the CPUs, which is terrible for racing. And Trigger Militia is gaining on 6th, but you know, Phteven Militia is falling into an early hole. I don't know what he's going to do to try to catch up. And there goes Trigger passing 6th place. Phteven's still in 8th, but at least he'll be able to enjoy this beautiful view that we've got of the city. Oh my God, look at that. The clouds and the way they reflect the light. Oh, sorry, we're racing. We're talking about racing here. Sorry. Phteven makes the pass into 7th, which is actually really surprising because he's been racing a terrible race up until then, and Trigger's still fighting for 5th, trying to catch this person named Sticks. Not sure who names a child Sticks, but he's also in a 76 GTI, and he passes him on the straightaway on the street. Who knew that this dirt race was also going to have some pavement? And it looks like Phteven is falling so far behind now, it does not look like he's going to catch up. We're only 50% through the race, and he should probably just quit and go home. Trigger makes another pass into 4th. Oh, but Vernon comes back and passes him back again. That might have been his only chance to get into 4th. He's definitely trying to see the podium today, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen with his street BMW that he's taking off-road. And for a moment there, Phteven was passed by a guy named Gecko, but it looks like he's been able to work himself back into 7th place. I bet you that Gecko is friends with that other person named Sticks. What stupid names in this race, oh my God. Well, they're about 87% of the way done, at least Trigger is. Phteven at 84, and they've got a little bit to go trying to finish up this race on a positive note, but it looks like both drivers are going to finish in poor positions, not even 4th place for Trigger, and it looks like Phteven's going to finish in 7th. What piss poor driving from both drivers in this off-road race. but we have to award a winner, so I guess Trigger is going to take the victory on this one. He will get the point, and he ties it up 1-1 going into the third event, the Drift Trial. Today's Drift Trial is also a famous clothing brand that we don't have the license to use on air, so let's skip the name and listen in on the pre-race chatter.
Okay, so the rear-wheel drive BMW should have the advantage here. It really should.
Absolutely.
If you beat me in a drift trial, I'm going to be pissed, because this should have the advantage. I don't know how you front-wheel drive and win.
And Trigger is very right at the start of this race. Who knows what's going to happen, though, because this is a video game anyways. Oh, and the first thing that Trigger does is run into some barriers. That is not a good start, even though he got points for the drift. I don't know how this works. Phteven Militia is just e-braking from side to side. He looks like a skateboarder who's just looking to slow down going down a big hill, except for he's going insanely slow all the way through this drift trial. I really hope we don't have to watch him for this entire time. Let's go ahead and switch back over to Trigger and see how he's doing. He's at about 20% of the way through, and he's got around 20,000 points, which is far less than what you need to finish this drift trial. But given the fact that he has rear-wheel drive, it seems like he might be the victor here. Let's check in on Phteven, and yep, he's still on the first lap, not even 20%, oh, just barely 20% of the way through, and he now has 3,000 points. This is going terribly wrong for Phteven, and it all has to do with that front-wheel drive car that he picked knowing he was going to have to do a drift trial. Oh, and what's that? Oh, I'm hearing from the control room that we finally have the instant replay that I was asking about earlier. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Cannot believe we've added this on such a low-budget production. Here we go. And as you can see from Phteven's view, he doesn't even touch him, but he just looks like it goes into the wall. Now here's from Trigger's point of view. Oh, clips the back fender, pushing him into the wall. Gotta love that online gaming desync. All right, back to the drift trial that we were currently watching. And Trigger is about 98% complete, and with Phteven only at 59%. He is going so slow. And there goes Trigger. He finishes with 147,000 score. There is no way Phteven Militia is going to catch up. He's at 63% of the way through with only 14,000 score. We are going to go ahead and skip the end of his drift trial. He for sure loses this one. It is now 2-1 Trigger. 3 events down, Trigger has taken a commanding 2-1 lead with only 2 events left. It is do or die, win or go home, sink or swim, poop or get off the pot for Phteven. He must win these last 2 events to be crowned the 100K champion. And speaking of the next event, we're getting into the water box, heating up those tires and lighting up that Christmas tree. It's time for a quarter mile of adrenaline, the drag race. Unfortunately, Need for Speed Heat does not have any official drag strips, so we're headed to Palm City Raceway. The drivers are ready to go, and the tires are hot. Let's go! Just to remind you, Trigger is running a 242 car with a 4.4 acceleration, and Phteven's 191 is only a 3.1. This is going to be interesting. And it looks like they're both going to launch from a red line, which is the worst way to launch a drag car, and they're off. The GTI gets a great start, but it is immediately passed by the BMW, and he's just pulling on him. It's not looking good for Phteven, and there goes Trigger all the way to the line in first, and he takes the victory and clinches the 100K championship with 1 event to spare. That last event is not even necessary, but for whatever reason, Trigger and Phteven want to run it anyways. The final event is the time trial, called Up, Up, and Away, just like Phteven's career after this episode. It's located inside Palm City Raceway and is full of jumps and switchback turns. It's really anyone's event. The only concern is, are these cars going to make it over the gap jumps? Who knows, but they are ready to go. So let's get this big waste of everybody's time on the road.
Oh, this is going to be hard, dude. Because some of the jumps, you have to have enough speed to like get over the gap, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
This is gonna be really hard.
And it sounds like Phteven and Trigger both worried about those gap jumps, so let's see how this goes. And they're off, and it looks like Phteven Militia's Ghost is way out in front of both drivers, and they both go into the first turn, no problems, real clean. Here we go into the dirt, and for the first jump, let's see how it goes. Trigger takes the jump and makes it. Oh, and Phteven Militia hits the wall, doesn't even make the first jump. How is he ever going to catch up? He's got to go through the barriers to get back in. Here he goes. And Trigger's out at 16% with Phteven Militia's only 11% complete, but he does nail the pipe jump. And here we go. Second jump. He makes it. He's really got to work hard now to catch up. Trigger Militia is all over the barriers. He can't stay away from them. Here he goes into the first big box jump. Here we go. He's up and safe. Phteven Militia approaching the box jump now, 23% to 28 on Trigger, and he overshoots the barriers. He can't make a turn in this giant car. He doesn't know what he's doing. Phteven Militia makes the turn, no problem, and he's headed for the next jump. Trigger makes the jump easy. Phteven Militia yet again hits a wall. He doesn't know how to make these jumps with this car being so slow. I don't know what he's going to do for the rest of this time trial. And he hits a wall. He was just going straight. Nothing was in his way. He just ran into a wall for no reason. Phteven has got to get this together. Otherwise, he is definitely going to lose this race. He goes off another jump and guess what? Hits another wall. Trigger Militia's lead is getting bigger. He's now at 49% to Phteven Militia's 39%. And Trigger is on his lap number 2, while Phteven is on the final stretch to try to finish up that first lap. Trigger takes the first jump and clears it, but barely. Into the pipe jump now, and it looks pretty clean. Phteven Militia hits another wall. He's really good at attracting those walls. And now he has to back up and turn back around so he can hit the finish line and start lap number 2. The only question is now, can Phteven make up enough ground to come back and get this victory? But it's not looking good. Trigger is at 74% to 55% for Phteven. Oh, he finds out that he can go around the jumps instead of jumping him into the wall like an idiot. And he takes the pipe jump off the side of the wall. Doesn't know how to do that one yet. And he goes around the second jump. What a smart way to do it. And Trigger's lead is growing. He's getting ready to go through another pipe jump, and he gets a little cockeyed. Oh my God, he lands sideways and loses control a little, but he's back on straight. And with only one set of turns left, and then the final straightaway to take the victory, it looks like Trigger is going to go ahead and get the checkered flag. Not only that, but it seems like he will be the $100,000 champion. What am I talking about? He already clinched that on the drag race. And there it goes. He finishes the race 100%. And Phteven Militia still has another 15% left. A couple of jumps, and these have been giving him trouble all day. Here he goes into the wall again. Did we really expect anything different from him? He's been hitting walls all day long. He's now only a couple of turns and a straightaway from officially securing second place. He hits another barrier just for good measure. Off to the final box jump. Here we go. And the last little straightaway to the finish line. It's really a sad day for the GTI fans out there. He hits another wall just because why not? You really would have thought that that scoop and spoiler would have helped him become a little more aerodynamic and hit those jumps better, but I guess not. Well, that's the end of this 100K challenge. I hope everyone had as much fun as I did. Unfortunately, Phteven's 76 GTI was just not enough for Trigger's 2016 M4. If you're interested in competing in the next $100,000 build challenge, please check the show notes for a link to the application. We are now accepting applications for new competitors. All right. It's time for me to grab a Barks, spike it with something stronger than Barks, and go home and pet my iguanas. I'm John Michael Bryan, and you've been watching a Militia Gaming Community production. Good night.